Star Wars just canceled another movie. It's hard to believe because, frankly, there can't be that many movies left. I mean, we're not talking about the Daisy film, and we know that one's not going to happen, right? Daisy Ridley, Rey? But, well, one less film is on the way, and today we'll tell you what it is, why it's gone, and all along, ladies and gentlemen, Star Wars could have been making Spider-Man money, but they chose a different path. They chose to destroy the past. Kill it, because they had to. It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. It's your friendly neighborhood pro, ready to tell you what's going down in Hollyweird. As we do so today, click that like button, share, subscribe, and click it. Stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. Star Wars has lost yet another movie. How is it possible? We didn't even know there was a movie to lose. Take a look at this. It's out of The Independent. It's by Carson Holliday. That's a great name. Star Wars franchise confirms scrapped movie amid box office failure. Another one. How can it be? Is this Filoni's first time? Is this the first time? They've all been under Kathleen before, right?
To my knowledge, correct.
Okay. Simon Farnaby, not Barnaby, Simon Farnaby and Paul King's concept of the film is being reworked into another project, aka it's gone. It says a planned Star Wars movie has been canceled, marking yet another setback for the iconic sci-fi franchise amid dwindling audiences. Simon Farnaby, who wrote hit movies like Wonka and Paddington 2. Not bad. Revealed in a recent interview with Variety that he had previously been on board to write a new Star Wars movie with his collaborator, Paul King, who was slated to direct the film. However, Farnaby said that the offer from Disney and Lucasfilm did not work out because their idea for the movie was based around a robot and did not involve any of the key Star Wars characters. Well, remember when we said that Josh D'Amaro and the other Disney execs went to Lucasfilm and said, we're going back to the things that work. I wonder if that has caused this to be canceled. Quote, they were like, we really need it to be a Star Wars movie, which is probably why it didn't get turned into a Star Wars movie, he told the outlet, but we never really nailed it. Farnaby went on to add that the concept for the film is being reworked into another project outside of the Star Wars universe, explaining Disney basically said it's not right for Star Wars, but do you want to rework it as a sci-fi film? So we're working on that now. Which is to say, Lauren, that they're working on competition for Star Wars from within Disney at a time when Star Wars doesn't need more competition inside or outside of said Disney.
I don't think Star Wars is in competition. They are turning television episodes into theatrical movies that flop. That's not competition for anybody.
Ouch. Ouch. Painful, Lauren. Painful. Lauren, this is yet another film that has been canceled. Give us your thoughts on whether or not this could have worked. This sounds kind of like it would have been a Skeleton Crew, but made into a movie. I'm going to say that after Mando, they decided there is no margin here. We either go with bona fide, guaranteed successes, or we get out of this thing.
Yeah, this can't work for a Star Wars movie. There are science fiction movies that you can do that it would work in, but the issue is that the reason to have droids in the Star Wars universe is as a contrast to humanity in that they are in many ways as human as the human characters, and that's interesting because you don't usually see robot characters in that way. But if you try to make them the protagonist, you run into the same problem that you get with the Pirates of the Caribbean sequels, where you have Jack Sparrow acting as the protagonist when he is meant to be not the protagonist. He's the agent of chaos. He's where you are focusing all of your attention, but he's not the person driving the plot. So I think if you try and make a droid that character, they already tried that in a Clone Wars series arc, and it's considered one of the least popular story arcs in the Clone Wars. They've already got a test case that proves this doesn't work.
Paul, if they're willing to drop the droid aspect of it and change it to an Ewok, will you reprise the role?
Well, I will take offense to calling Star Wars science fiction.
You think it's space wizards?
Yeah. It's
fantasy.
space cowboys. It's
space opera.
Yeah. You know, you compare it to any of the really good science fiction out there. It's not science fiction. And I mean, I appreciate it. It's fun. It's, it's Buck Rogers or whatever. But no, it's not science fiction. And it's weird that they would say, oh, we can repurpose it for something else. Well, that means you don't have it right the first time. Like, how can you repurpose something? We've already seen kind of a reverse version of it. What was the one with the kids that, went into space with a criminal and had this adventure, kind of like
that was Skeleton Crew.
So Skeleton Crew, when I saw it, the first thing that popped into my mind was this was a script that had nothing to do with Star Wars, and then they glommed Star Wars on it. That was my first feeling. There's nothing Star Wars about this except
Goonies 2.0.
Yeah, it was Goonies 2.0. This had nothing. It didn't feel like a Star Wars movie because it wasn't one. And so now we're doing the reverse of it. We're now going to pull out elements of this mystery script and turn it into something else. I don't know.
Who knows? And chances are we'll never know, because chances are it'll never see the light of day.
We're talking about nothing now.
Right. Which is, it's moved from Seinfeld to the media. Let's talk about something then, eh? This is what Star Wars could have been if Star Wars had just decided to give the fans what they want. Of course, we all know that Tom Holland has said that before he came back to Spider-Man Brand New Day, he was determined to find out what do fans want, put it on the screen, and here's what that means. According to Deadline from Anthony D'Alessandro, Spider-Man Brand New Day is the second fastest film to cross $1 billion at the international box office, with global at $1.67 billion. We are watching as Spider-Man now is seriously could get to $3 billion. I think that's a very, very long shot, but That Park Place is reporting this. Marvin Montanaro. It is definitely going to cross $2 billion. The question is, how much beyond can it go? Is $3 billion possible? It's a long shot, but it's there. And Wiz, as we look at this, I just think, Star Wars could be pulling these kinds of numbers. They decided to eviscerate their characters as opposed to what Spider-Man is doing. For all of its faults and all of its flaws in the script, Spider-Man gives us a hopeful, optimistic character that is not deconstructed. He's not cynical, and it's winning over audiences. This is what people want. People actually want their heroes back again.
And they want romance.
Romance too. That's a good point.
They want romance. They want heroes. They want human first values again. And they want to celebrate being human, because a lot of media now just puts down being human. The humans are the bad guys. Everything is very cynical. There's a lot of nihilism in the media, in media today. But something we learned with Spider-Man is that there is Spider-Man and then there's superhero movies. And I think in a lot of ways there's Batman and then there's superhero movies. Now, Superman used to not be a superhero movie. It used to be Superman, and Superman could have stood on his own. But James Gunn has squandered what was left of that, and now it really is Batman and Spider-Man are the only ones that could stand on their own. When we look at Star Wars, I think Star Wars is in a worse position than
much worse.
Maybe James Gunn's DC or Marvel, the Thunderbolts, whatever the extended Marvel universe is right now. Disney, Sony, everybody in Hollywood needs to learn that we want heroes back. We want romance back. And I hope they learn those lessons from why Spider-Man was so successful. I hope they don't look at this and think that we want more morally gray characters. That we went to see this because we were so compelled with the Sadie Sink character, that this character was just so compelling because that was the weakest part of the movie. People loved what Tom Holland brought to the screen. He really nailed it. I personally believe that he was, because he had said this himself. He said that he was really reading into the comments and Reddit and forums and watching videos to see what people actually wanted from Spider-Man. And to that, I have to think that he came across people debating who was the best Spider-Man, him, Andrew Garfield, or Tobey Maguire. And with that in mind, he delivered a performance that truly rivals everybody else. Now he's a true contender for being a good Spider-Man. Despite what, however you feel about the movie, he did good as Spider-Man. And
he also, I think, did better in Spider-Man than he did in the Odyssey.
Oh, by miles. By miles. He's just Tom Holland in the Odyssey. But then again, that's not entirely his fault because everybody just plays themselves in the Odyssey. Like Matt Damon is Matt Damon. Anne Hathaway is Anne Hathaway. I never once saw, the only one that you see them as a different character is Robert Pattinson in the Odyssey. But overall.
To be fair, Telemachus Parker doesn't really roll off the tongue either.
That's a deep joke.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
What really put me off was that his North American accent was Peter Parker. that it hit me. I went, wow, this is no different from Peter Parker. I think the character would have been far better if he had done his, normal English accent.
Or,
But there was no
find
English accents allowed in this.
find something new. If you're going to do a North American accent, go with Canadian, right?
Eh?
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
That's right. Eh?
What is interesting to me, Andy, is when we look at the divergence of these two franchises, and I think it's appropriate to talk about it because Spider-Man now is the biggest franchise on the planet. Star Wars was the biggest franchise on the planet for like 3 decades. Spider-Man at $1.6 billion with its most recent entry. Mandalorian, the total was 345. Andy, my understanding is that Spider-Man outgrossed the entire Mandalorian and Grogu box office run in 24 hours. That's amazing.
Well, that's not really a high bar considering as badly as the Mandalorian did because of the damage they've done to it. I think that what has separated Spider-Man from the rest of these, it's been sort of its own little island, and they haven't contaminated with any Disney Plus shows. Those of us that grew up on comic books, I was in 1976, I started reading comic books, and we were mocked and ridiculed for being the comic book geek and dork. And we waited all these years for people to catch up and find out that there were actually good stories with well-written characters, very well-developed characters. And the success of the Marvel Universe was because in the beginning stages, they stayed true to the characterizations of those creations. And then when they started to deviate from it, started to treat it like a property, is when it all fell apart. Tom Holland went back and found the humanity within Peter Parker, and that's what came across with it. Wiz is right. It's like it's a human story at the end of the day. They may have superpowers, but they're still human, and we all have the same kind of things. Like you can go anywhere in the world where there's men and women, and there's a couple fighting over what they're having for dinner, and that's the universal truth. So when you deviate from that and you just slap the label on, like you just put dressing on something and said, oh, look at Star Wars. It's like, it doesn't quite work. That's what has to happen. This thing is something that was done with care, with love, and with the fans in mind. If you make something, the fans will follow it, and the fans will push it, and people will follow the fans. If you don't do that with respect to the fans, it's just going to fall flat on its face, as we've seen.
Now, to that point, Lauren, I'll give you the final word on this. Star Wars is going to have to find some way to get back. I don't know how they get back, but they got to find some way to get back. And, if you're looking for a character that might be able to shine some light on humanity or give us the kind of performance that clearly audiences want, is there a character left? Is there some, like where we go story-wise for Star Wars, if, as we've heard in the leaks and we've reported here, they're being told stay with the New Republic. Like, what can they do? Who do they have in the roster that they could go with that fans might actually care about?
I don't think I want them touching an existing character. So I would advise them instead, don't go looking for a character you think the audience knows. Instead, tell the kind of story that you know that somebody wants. Keep it on a smaller scale. I've advocated for this I don't know how many times. Tell an X-Wing Rogue Squadron story. Create a new stable of characters that are not plot armored such that you know they can't die, so that you create some stakes in a story, give them varied personalities so that they have conflict within the group that they have to overcome, let a few of them die so that you feel those stakes and you bring the group closer together, and it gives you an opportunity to introduce new villains. Just tell a good guys against bad guys story within the universe, don't overthink it, and see what happens.
And you said stakes, not snakes, right?
Why did it have to be snakes?
Yeah, because space snakes, that would be scary. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for checking out the video today. It's such a pleasure every time we get to endeavor together, explaining entertainment and keeping you ahead of the culture curve. If you would be so kind, folks, swerve on down to that like button wherever you may find it and click it, please. It helps us. And you are the gigawatts that send us far and wide across the fruited plains of YouTube. Until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.